Okay, let's just give 5-10 seconds for people to join in.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I see people have started joining in.
Okay, you were talking about my cat's not being here. Togo is here with his headlamp. What? What is it? Come here. So
Okay.
Togo is here with his headlamp, and yeah, he's trying to take it off.
Okay, we have people joining in. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We are here with a clinical pet nutritionist, Aakerschika Mishra, to talk about different digestive issues that we see day in and day out in our pets. Aakerschika here is practicing as a nutritionist and is helping many animals to live healthy and many parents to ensure that their pets remain healthy. So over to you, Aakerschika.
Hi, Minty. So you introduced me, but you did not introduce yourself. I think you should take 2 minutes to introduce yourself, and maybe then we can kick it off.
Hi everyone, this is Minty. I have worked with animals for over 4 to 5 years, with dogs and with cats. I've been fostering, rescuing, helping out, doing a lot of things here and there. And today I'll be talking to Aakerschika, addressing all the questions that you post in the comments and talk about different topics that we listed in the post. So I think we can start with how we can navigate through how the basic digestive system of pets work.
Okay, so dogs and cats, unlike humans and other omnivores, they don't have intestines as long. So when you look at the anatomy of a pig, you would see that a pig's intestine, is 16 times its body's length. So if you keep 16 pigs one after the other, you'll get the intestine length of one pig, which for dogs is just 6 times. So 6 times his body length is his intestines. And when we talk about cats, it's about I think 4 times the total length. So this tells us that they don't have a lot of time basically to break down the carbs, to break down the sugars, to break down the food that they're eating. So their digestive tract is a much more simpler. B cannot break down very complex sugars or very complex carbs, and C, it needs a lot more protein than a normal, human being, or an animal which is an omnivore or a herbivore does, because protein essentially is much more easier to break than any other substance. Protein is essentially made up of amino acids, and one protein compound as a compound has about I believe six 10,000 to 10,000, and it may go up, it may go even higher, chains of amino acid to create one compound. So amino acids are pretty essential for dogs, for their functioning, even for their digestive system, which is why protein is very important. So first thing we need to understand, for dogs and cats, protein is very essential. It should make the main part of their diet, because amino acids are essentially required to create the protein. For even for a human being to create your own protein, you need amino acids. With the help of amino acids, you're going to create your own protein. So this is one thing that we need to understand about dogs and cats, and this tells us why they need more functional protein than any other ingredient in their food.
Got it, makes sense. And could you give some examples of commonly given diets which contain a lot of protein in different species, like commonly in dogs and cats?
When you say diet, do you mean the different
What we
kind
feed,
of
like what we are feeding to our dogs and cats. So what is the most commonly fed form of protein that we talk so much
um,
about protein? So some examples.
in white meat, I've often seen people using chicken a lot. And in red meat, I've seen in India at least they use mutton a lot, if at all they're using red meat, which sadly they don't. um, Deficiency of red meat in the diet can also lead to deficiencies in minerals like zinc and copper. So that is there. But I think in India most of the dogs are eating kibble,
Yeah.
which is which has protein, but whether it's functional or not is the question here, because whatever protein you're feeding your dog should be functional. It shouldn't just be, because even say suppose a dog food has about it says on the back panel that it has about 32% of protein, but only 75% of it your dog can absorb.
Yeah.
And then there's another dog food which has 28% protein, but your dog can absorb 85% of that. So both the
Okay.
proteins, both the dog foods are giving the same amount of protein to your dog, because one has more ratio, one has more percentage but it's not functional. The other one is functional and is lower in the percentage. So until unless people start focusing on that, the protein or whatever they're giving to their dog, until unless it is functional, it's not going to work for their dog at all.
Okay, makes sense. You talk to so many dog and cat parents. So, what are some of the very common issues that you have seen, that they face with their pets related to digestive system?
Okay, so one thing that I've seen very common is dog throwing up bile.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is something that almost everybody who comes to me is like, my dog has been throwing bile, and this is the reason why I came to you, because I'm a clinical nutritionist. Nobody, and in general, nobody wants to bring their healthy dog to a nutritionist because they think the dog is doing just fine. So the moment
Yeah,
it
and
starts throwing
before
up the
I'm sorry,
bile,
before you proceed, I think many of us might not know what bile is. Can you talk in little layman
it's a
terms of when you?
yellow
Yeah,
fluid that the dog throws up, yellow watery fluid, can be accompanied by foam, and there are times it's not accompanied by foam, but it's yellow
yeah,
liquid that comes that your dog throws up. It is basically because of acidity, but there could be other reasons to it, like some kind of allergy. Maybe your dog is allergic to something he's eating. Maybe he has bile can lead to a lot of issues like IBS hair, colic issues, hair, and then you have gastric issues. You have allergies. So bile, once somebody tells me that the dog is throwing up bile, the next thing that I ask them is the picture of the poop of the dog, which gives me more clarity as in what issue does the dog have. So a yellow poop can mean, okay, so when I see a yellow poop, I know it has to be 99% sure, I'm sure that it has to be some allergy, something that the dog is eating he's allergic to. If it's a black
okay,
poop, then I know it's intestinal bleeding and it might be some infection or IBS. And if it's
got it,
diarrhea, then again, it could be stomach flu, it can be IBS, it can be allergies that can lead to a lot of different things.
got it. Makes sense. And bile is common both in dogs and in cats.
Yes.
Okay, okay. What apart from bile, what else do you see that we as parents we face very commonly with our dogs and cats?
So bile is there, throwing up is there, diarrhea is there. There are a lot of things that's common in pets. The problem is that we um, don't know how to react when a dog is throwing up. Some parents would just rush their dog to the vet as soon as they see the first bile. uh, is there a question? Yeah, so some parents would just rush to the vet without trying to understand the reason behind it, without it I don't know. I just see a lot of confusion around this. I see a lot of parents diagnosing on their own, googling things up, not getting treatment in time. Some parents getting too paranoid and rushing to the vet very fast, where they get a lot of antibiotics inside their dogs, and that is definitely something that you should avoid. If your dog throws up bile, try adding a little bit of mint leaves to his next diet, and if he still throws up bile, that is when you kind of go take your dog to your vet.
Makes sense. Rahul here has asked that a lot of pet parents feed chicken and rice or chicken and curd. So, what is your advice on this? And to add to it, what do you think? Um, how can it affect the gut health of the pet overall?
So rice and chicken and curd is something that is not well balanced. You're giving just white meat. You're not giving any variety to your dog. That can lead to a lot of nutritional issues. I always recommend people to give functional proteins to your dog. That means dogs or cat. That means try giving novel proteins like buff, like pork, like sheep, like duck, quail, guinea fowl. Go for variety, because if you just stick to one kind of white meat, which is, and chicken is a meat that is high on allergen, as is beef. When you stick to the just that one thing, you are kind of making your dog prone to more allergies. So it's always better to keep changing the different proteins and not just stick to one. If you don't, and if you are feeding home food, just it's better to reach out to a nutritionist, get a plan made for your dog, ensure that it's nutritionally balanced, get it. Obviously, after you get a plan by your nutritionist, always go to your vet and get an opinion on the plan. And then once you get a green flag, start off with it. Never ever give a plan, or get a plan made for your dog without proper blood work. You need to give your nutritionist a CBC, KFT, and LFT, so that the nutritionist knows how your dog's kidney is functioning, how your dog's liver is functioning, and how the blood work is, or what the blood work is, and accordingly they can create a meal plan for your dog.
Makes sense. Makes total sense. Rahul is also talking about feeding chicken bones to pets.
Yeah, you can, but it has to be in the form of bone meal. You cannot just give raw bones, or you cannot give cooked boiled bones to your dogs, because they splinter. So you need to make bone meal at home first, and then probably you can in that way feed chicken bones to your dogs, if your dog is not allergic to chicken, that is.
Okay. Is chicken liver good for dogs?
Yes, in see, chicken liver, if you're giving any organ of a bird like chicken, you need to make sure that it's antibiotic and residue free, it's hormone free. Because what happens is, when these birds are moved from the poultry to the butcher's place, they survive a long trip without being fed, with no water. They're kept outside those tiny cages with no food, no water. So just to survive those 6 7 days, they are injected with a lot of antibiotics, which obviously the organs are absorbing. So if you are
Okay.
giving chicken organ, make sure it's antibiotic free, hormone free. Otherwise, it's going to be bad for your dogs. Also, look at your dog's health condition. If your dog has a renal issue, or if your dog has maybe EPI, then you want to stay away from feeding your dog chicken liver or organ meat. So if your dog is healthy, yes, go for it, but it has to be antibiotic free, residue free, and you have to give it in moderation. There's only a particular amount of it that you can give to your dog.
So the amount of it depends on what, like on the
On the
weight of the
body
dog.
condition score of the dog, on the health of the
Okay.
dog, on the weight of the
The blood
dog,
work.
obviously, and
Yeah.
on the activity level of the dog.
Okay, got it. Okay, we have another interesting question about raw diet. How do you think raw diet affects digestive health?
I'm not very comfortable with people feeding raw to their pets. See, everyone has his own discretion. They do things at their own discretion. That's fine. But I would not recommend feeding raw in India. Let's not forget, India is a tropical country. In a tropical country, we have a climate where bacteria fester, and there is no quality control in meat whatsoever. And so these meats are, they have pathogens like salmonella, listeria, E. coli, and these can actually create toxicity in your dog, and it can be fatal. I've seen dogs with intestinal bleeding after eating raw. I'm
Oh,
not a fan of raw
okay.
in India at all.
When you say intestinal bleeding, like do they vomit blood? Is there blood and poop? How do we know about
They
that?
poop blood, they even throw up blood. In fact, I was having a discussion with my vet the other day about the same issue. How she told me, a lot of people who've been feeding raw, they've been coming with the cats and dogs, and she's had a lot of cases with raw and intestinal bleeding. So, but the problem is that people, it's become a fad, ancestral diet has become a fad. People don't really know how it works, and they just feed it to their dog. So this is something that a wolf is supposed to eat. All right, now a wolf would go in the wild hunting for days and days and days before he ends up on a prey. So he's exhausting all the proteins that he's eating, and the animals in wild, they are not kept in the conditions that you have, that you have your chickens in, or you have your farm animals in. So they are much more cleaner, they are much more purer, they're eating pure, they're drinking pure, the water stream is healthy, and that is what the wolf is finally eating. So a, pathogens ka problem is very low. B, he is exhausting the proteins he's eating. You cannot apply that science on a dog that's sitting on your couch all day and feed him raw from, raw coming from poultry, or raw coming from, I don't know, XYZ unreliable sources.
Okay, so you're saying that raw is okay until unless it's fed in moderation and it's
your
antibiotic
dog should
free.
your dog should also have the activity level. He should be exhausting the amount of proteins that he's eating. If he's not exhausting it, you're just setting up your dog for a long term renal issue.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Another question we have here is: are there any problems if we feed chicken skin to dogs as 10 to 15% of the total cooked diet?
I don't think so. There's a problem if you're not adding a lot of oils topically, as long as it's within the margin of the fats that is recommended by AFCO. There is no problem, because chicken skin is a first grade fat. It's a good fat. You can definitely feed it to your animals. In fact, I do whenever I cook for my cats at home or my dogs at home. I never remove the skin from the meat. That is something I
Oh,
give. So
okay.
it, yeah, so it's okay if you're doing that.
Got it. Can I give raw chicken to my 3-month-old GST puppy? So we just covered about
No.
raw in dogs. So let's just discuss about how raw diet works with puppies also. Yeah.
Give cooked. Don't take chances. It's a small puppy. This is the time for him to develop his immunity. You don't want to hamper it. Do not give raw to your puppy. Definitely, I would, and chicken to especially. You should never give raw. There's a chance of salmonella poisoning. You don't want that for your pup. Don't go for raw. Cook whatever you're giving. You can lightly cook it, but cook it.
Got it. Most pet parents state that their pets are lively, very active, and meaning a healthy pet. Why are blood tests important? And this is a very good question.
Blood
And
tests
how
are
often should it
important
be?
because, Minty, you know it. When you look at a animal, it might appear healthy, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because things like kidney issue and liver issue are mostly diagnosed when they're at the last stage. You know, pets start reacting at a very later stage, because these are the organs that, that kind of don't give up that easily, and it's when they
Yeah.
give up, that's when your dog starts or your cat starts showing symptoms. So it's always better to get a CBC, KFT, LFT, at least the basic tests on a yearly basis or a bi-yearly basis. That is something that is even recommended for humans. Even
And
humans get
sticking,
the yearly blood work done.
yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean that your dog looks healthy, so he is healthy. That's not true. In fact, most
And
of the clients who come to me, who tell me the dogs are absolutely healthy, and then once we get a CBC, KFT, LFT done, and then we see a lot of spikes in a lot of
yeah,
ranges. Yes.
yeah, making makes sense. And sticking to our topic today, where we are talking about, navigating through the digestive system, what different types of tests are there that as pet parents we should know about that tells us about that the digestive health of our animals?
So the basic test I told you, that is CBC, KFT, and LFT. These are the basics that you need to get done. You can also go for a stool test and stool culture if you see something wrong with the stool. If you see something wrong with the urine, you can go for a urine test and urine culture. If your dog does have digestive issues, I do recommend a UCG and also a pancreas function test and a serum test for the dogs. Because mostly what I've seen is people who I've come across a lot of people who are so there's this person in Kolkata who came to me and said the dog has missed esophagus. Turned out the dog had EPI. The pancreas
What is
were not
what is
uh,
EPI?
endocrine pancreatic insufficiency.
Okay,
So
is
what
it also
happens
very
here
common?
is it is not very common, but a lot of times I've seen people telling me that their dog is allergic to a certain something or has IBS or has esophagus, and I get a pancreas function test and I get a serum test, and I see the lipase is low, the amylase is low. That means the pancreas is not generating enough enzymes to break down whatever your dog is eating. And in API, it's a progressive disease. You need to add these enzymes topically. So the generation of insulin also happens in pancreas, and that also reduces quite a bit in API. And it keeps on reducing till the point the pancreas isn't generating any enzyme at all.
Okay.
So so when once we start adding these enzymes topically to the dog's food, that is where the dog starts settling in. Dog start putting on weight back. So this is something that is often I don't know, overlooked by people. So when they do see such things happening, your dog losing weight, your dog not eating, your dog throwing up constantly, do get a pancreas test, do check out the insulin levels, amylase levels, and lipase levels in your dogs. Do ask your vet for that. I think that is a very, very smart thing to do. So just so you know, you've covered everything. And in a lot of cases I've seen, so there was this case where there was this dog who had dental issues. So this lady
Oh,
told me,
okay.
that the dog kind of has digestive upset. Every time he eat, he starts crying. And I said that is not digestive upset. That most probably is, a tumor in your dog's mouth or some dental issue. Turned out the dog did have dental issue, and that the dog did have a tumor on his snout.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Ishita has a question. How to feed vegetables to your dogs?
So you can steam them. If you're steaming them, then you need to add topical supplementation definitely, because you're going to lose on a lot of nutrients. I don't do that. I get organic vegetables, I puree them, and then I give them to my dog, because
Okay,
you're breaking down the cellulose when you're pureeing them, and it becomes for your dog much more easier to digest, and the nutrition is intact.
makes sense. Sardines versus mackerel. Why?
Sardine versus mackerel. So mackerel is very, very rich in omega 3, EPA, and DHA. I think around 127 grams of mackerel has about 32 3,200 mg of omega 3, EPA, and DHA. Sardines have 28 127 grams have about 2800 mg of omega 3, EPA, and DHA. Both are good. Mackerel, there are various types of mackerel. Don't go for king mackerel. If you're going for mackerel, go for the smaller ones. Sardines are also okay. I think it's not versus. You can go for either of them. Mackerel is definitely richer in omega 3, EPA, and DHA, but then that also depends on the type of mackerel that you're feeding. There are various species, so what you're feeding is important. Plus, the size should not be very big, so it should not be something like king mackerel. It should be a smaller mackerel, which in India is easily available by the name of bangda, I think.
Okay,
And sardine, yes, sardine is equally good. I think both are good, Rana.
okay. How to understand signs of renal problems in young dogs?
Renal problems or renal
I think she
problems?
means renal. I think she means renal. Yeah.
Yes. So, signs of renal issues. The first thing you note is your dog has started drinking a lot more water than he was initially. You would see signs of lethargy. You would see your dog infrequency in urinating. If your dog is urinating inside your house and he's a housebroken dog, he's never urinated inside the house, it could be a sign of CKD or CRD, as we call it. Sometimes you also see ulcerations around the mouth. This is a more rare symptom, but it is still a symptom, ulcerations around the mouth. And sometimes you also see the phosphorus kind of uh, attaches itself, and you find strains of it on the skin, which causes skin issues also. So it definitely can lead to that. Again, not a very common symptom, but still a symptom of CKD or CRD. It's always, like I said, if you get your blood works done every 6 months for your dog, basic test, CBC, KFT, LFT, you can avoid CKD or CRD altogether, until unless it is genetic. If it's genetic, you can't really do much about it.
Got it. Please throw some light on raw garlic feeding, as recently many people are adding it to the dog's diet.
It's not a recent thing, actually. It's something that when I
Yeah.
did nutrition, it was, I think, 2006. I've been doing it since then. It's not something recent, but garlic is a substance that your dog might be allergic to. A lot of dogs are allergic to garlic. So first test whether or not your dog is allergic to garlic. Also, there's a way of feeding garlic. You cannot, just add raw garlic to your dog's diet. Ki uthaya chila dal diya. No, you have to chop it, leave it open for about, open in the air, like chop it into very small pieces, leave it out in the air for about 15 minutes, so that all the toxins evaporate, and that is when you add it to your dog's diet.
Okay. Okay. How does garlic helps? Like,
So it's
what?
a natural dewormer, basically, and it also has antibacterial properties. It also has antifungal properties. Garlic is good for your dog's coat and skin. Also, it also keeps the ticks away. It's not something new. It's just that in between, a lot of new studies keep coming up, and one proves the other wrong, and the other proves the first one wrong. So there were a few studies which said, so the dogs, one of the dog was the garlic proved toxic for him. But that applies, see, if you're allergic to peanuts, you cannot eat peanuts, but if you're not, you can definitely eat. So it same applies for garlic. If you're not allergic to garlic, you can eat garlic. There's no problem. Your dog can eat, but depending on his weight, it should never be more than half a teaspoon.
Okay, got it. I'm sorry. I think my cat is just being a little extra needy today. Okay. Coming to our next topic. So we talked about different things. Let's discuss causes. Like, what do you think causes a digestion imbalance, or basic digestive issues in pets?
So it starts off from where your pup was born. Okay, there are certain genetic issues, certain dogs are predisposed to them, and that is something that can cause it. Second, if your dog's immunity is quite low, then it can be caused. Third, if you're not feeding your dog right, if you're feeding your dog something that is high on allergen, or something that is a non-functional carb or protein, then also it might affect your dog's gut. Always feed healthy, always feed natural. The more preservatives go inside your dog system, the more sensitive your dog's gut becomes. So, and add variety to your dog's food. The more variety your dog is eating, the more he's adjusting to new things, the stronger his gut becomes. So it's always how you raise him, and if you raise him right, I don't think you should face any digestive upsets, until unless there are some genetic issues. Oh my god, Togo is like been meowing from the back.
Yeah, I think we both are having a little meow situation at our
Yes,
end.
totally.
Okay. Okay. What else? Anything that, any very common causes that we ignore, for example, overfeeding, for
Hmm.
example, low amount of water, for example, too much meat. Do you think
Hmm.
things like this also causes digestive imbalance?
Yeah, definitely it can. Yeah. So, overfeeding, feeding your dog right after he's come out. So you're taking your dog out for a run, and then soon as you come back home, you're feeding your dog. Your dog is eating food really fast. That can also cause digestive issues. He's gulping in a lot of air, so that air gets trapped in the digestive
Hmm.
tract, and then that causes colic issues, that even causes bloating, let alone a minor colic issue. Bloating can be fatal. So there's a myth about feeding dogs on raised bowls. um, Instead of bettering anything, it does cause issues, so you should
Oh,
totally
really?
avoid that.
Someone told me that, dogs who are flat nosed or has a snout which is more curvy, they should
Hmm.
always be fed at raised, like at a height. So that's not true.
No, that's a myth.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know that.
The
Okay.
race bowls, a lot of people feed, but that's always been a myth. There's no
Okay.
science proving. In fact, there were studies that showed it caused bloating in dogs.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So like I said, the lifestyle you give, the more you educate yourself, the more ask your vet, the more you ask your nutritionist, or the more you ask whoever is guiding you through the whole process. It can even be your breeder. Just make sure that you're getting the right information. Try whenever you're researching something or googling something, instead of just going online and googling on every website, just go for something like maybe there's a pub government website. I don't know, I think PubMed or something. And this website has all the government funded papers and the proper research works done by proper universities. Look at those paper instead of looking for every any article that you read online, because though most of those articles are not written by professionals.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Rahul has a question about how often can we add garlic to our pets' diets?
See, I don't add it more than once in 15 days, because I simply add it if I need to deworm my dog. So one of my dogs does not take garlic well. For him, I don't, but for the rest of the six, I do. It's mostly once in 15 days that I add.
Okay. Um, Another point for raised bowls will only be used if the conformation is not correct. Do you want to talk about it?
Yes, that's true. If your dog's
Okay.
conformation is not correct, if it's affecting the top line, if it's affecting the rear, that's when you use it.
Okay. Even for water. So Seema has a question: are raised food bowls not good? And what about raised water bowls?
There is no science that proves that race bowls are not good or race bowls are good. What I'm saying is that it's a myth that it prevents bloating. It does not. Okay, it's always been a myth, but there are no studies that show that they are bad either. There was a study, I think, done by Cornell University that did tell us that raised bowls might cause bloating. Not sure about it. I've never used raised bowls for my dogs. My dogs drink water from the ground, because when we give ancestral diet, we compare them to wolves, and wolves are eating from the ground, drinking from the ground. So if you're looking
Mhm.
at um, uh, but then these are dogs that have evolved over generations. So if your dog is probably a dog with some spinal issues or some other issues, may you probably want to go for the race bowl. Otherwise, if he's a normal healthy dog, don't. Not required.
Okay, makes sense. We are talking so much about bloating, and bloating I have seen is one of the most ignored problem. So, do you want to, talk a little more about bloating in pets, like how to know your dog or cat is bloated, and what to do for bloating, and how to help uh, that situation?
Yeah, so Rana just said something. If length of the front legs is less than the hind legs, yeah. So that is what no. Even with the cases of those bow legs, you need a kind of a race pole. So that, like you said, Rana, the conformation is very very important. If your dog is healthy, has a proper structure, your dog does not treat race poles. But if there's a medical condition or a structural defect, like you just mentioned, yes, the dog does need it. Now coming to the bloat part, bloat, there are various ways to finding it. Your dog start panting really fast, your dog would be crying out in pain, and the stomach of your dog will appear bloated. As soon as you see the dog's stomach swelling up, rush him to the vet, get it punctured, get it operated, because bloating can kill your dog if you are even late by minutes. It's not
What
some.
exactly is bloating? Like what is
So
bloating?
the stomach kind of flips. All right,
Okay.
and it usually happens in large breeds. Why? Because see, dog stomachs are not attached to the inside of the rib cage. They're just loose, they're
Hmm.
just hanging there. And when your dog eats a lot of food at once, or after you've exercised him, he comes back home and starts drinking up a lot of water and start eating up a lot of food, the stomach have a tendency of getting heavy and flipping over,
Okay.
and that causes bloating. There is a surgery for it called tacking. If you get your
Okay.
dog's stomach tagged, there are 95% chances that you can prevent it. That is also not completely foolproof, but something
It
that
helps.
I have
Okay.
done with a few of my dogs
Hmm.
whose parents had suffered from bloat. I did not want to take any chances. For giant breeds, it's something that can be done. A lot of breeders abroad do this.
Okay. Okay. We have a very interesting topic here that is raised on probiotics. So, what are probiotics, and do they really work, or is it overhyped by commercial dog food companies because processed food cannot have probiotics?
So probiotic is something I've seen a lot of people giving. I don't know, kefir. Everybody is more interested in anything that is firangi, anything that's foreign, but that's okay. So everybody is giving kefir to their dogs, gutwell to their dogs, enterogermina to their dogs. It's not required, not until unless your dog really needs to, you really need to give your dog a healthy gut flora. You don't really require it a lot. Until unless there's a real requirement for it, or your dog does need help, for a better gut, give a probiotic. Otherwise, ghar ka dahi works wonders. You do not really need to go for all those probiotics, because the more support you give your dog's system, the more your dog starts depending on that particular thing. If you start giving gut will every day from today, your dog's gut is now dependent on that, which a thing that he doesn't really need. If your dog has a healthy gut, you do not need probiotic. It is overhyped. It is oversold.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay. Okay. We have a question from Seema. Please explain confirmation.
Conformation is the structure of the dog. So every dog has a different structure, different conformation. Conformation is basically what these clubs, the kennel clubs like FCI, AKC, or KCI, tell you that this is how the hocks should look like. This is what the front leg should look like. This is how what the pasture should look like. This is what the top line should look like. Like GSDs have a sloping top line, but then there are breeds that have to have a straight top line, and then there are other breeds that like Dogo Argentino can have a little raised rear. That is acceptable. So whatever guidelines there are for your dog's body structure, for your dog's anatomy, that are given by these clubs, are basically the conformation of your dog.
Okay. How do we know by observing my dog that she has bloating? So we discussed by looking at the stomach. You see the stomach a little bloated, and I think we talked about other symptoms as well. Any other symptom you would like to highlight, Akarshika?
Yeah, the constant whining, crying, the stomach swelling up a lot, your dog not eating, drinking, your dog is writhing in pain. If you, I've seen dogs in bloating, they're too much in pain, they whine a lot. It's not something that you cannot judge by looking at it.
Okay. Can you help us understand importance of probiotics in the digestive system of our pets? Are probiotics different for cats than dogs?
No, I give the same probiotics to both my dogs and cats. I would definitely avoid probiotics that are made out of fermented vegetables for my cats. That is something that I would give my dogs that I won't give to my cats. But yes, if we talk about something like Gutwell and Pterogermina, the store-bought probiotics are pretty much the same. I would also use yogurt for both my dogs and cats. Just the only thing that is the only probiotic that's different from dogs and cats are the fermented vegetables and the powder made from fermented vegetables. That I would definitely not give to my cat. Importance of probiotic is only, see, probiotics, what it basically does is it kind of increases, or it gives you a healthy population of gut flora and fauna. Okay, so the gut bacteria, the good gut bacteria, is maintained by giving your dog probiotic. Now usually your dog has a healthy amount, he doesn't need probiotic for that. It, you only need to give it in case your dog needs it. So I usually recommend probiotic when a dog is transitioning to a different meal, or when a dog is suffering from some digestive issue where he needs it. Otherwise, I do not give it to my cats and dogs. I don't think I want them to depend on it so much, so that they get it every day, and the moment I pull it off, they just, their stomach goes
And allowing
ballistic.
proper. Yeah. Okay. Um. Okay, we already covered this. Oh, what are prebiotics?
Again, yes, they are so prebiotics would also, I also see a lot coming from enzymes, especially papaya enzymes. Again, this is not really required until unless your dog's health call for it, and I do think that they are being hyped a lot. See, most of the things that you see being sold commercially isn't necessarily required for your dog or cat. This is something that is just hyped, and I've seen a lot of people giving any lift 52 prebiotics, probiotics, and whatnot, digitone, everything to their dog. You're just not letting the dog build up its own immunity, build up its own, the strengthen his own digestive system on its
Yeah.
own. You're just being supportive for it, and it's not
Yeah.
really required.
Yep. Are indies prone to bloating?
uh I have not seen a bloating case in Indy yet, but if it's a very big Indy, then yes, he might be.
Okay. Please, can you explain why giving roti to dogs is bad? I have an indie who loves roti. Also, can a dog be healthy on vegetarian food?
No, a dog cannot be healthy on vegetarian food. Dog needs protein. Dog needs functional proteins. Functional proteins come from meat. And your dog does not require OT. It's just a filler. So some dogs are allergic to gluten or wheat. For them, so it's a big no. But then there are dogs who are not allergic to gluten or wheat. It's not going to harm them, but then again, it's not going to do any good. So it's like giving Maggie to your kid, even though it's, I don't know. It's not required. It's just a filler. Why would you want to do that? Give your dog something that's healthy for him, something that is easy for him to break down, something that he can derive the amino acids from. That is very, very important. Give him a good amount of phytonutrients. Just don't depend on vegetarian food. That's not really great.
Okay, got it. My dog, I'm sorry. Yeah. My dog lately only wants to eat non veg. It's difficult to feed her anything that's not meat. What can I do?
Ishita, you can try adding pureed vegetables in the meat. That way, your dog cannot figure out whether the vegetables are added in it or not. If your dog does not like the taste of raw vegetable, you can probably steam it and then puree it with a little bit of meat added to it, so that it gets mixed in properly and your dog cannot find out where the vegetables are. That's something you can do. Vegetables are important, as are grains. I'm not a nutritionist who would tell you like stay away from grains. Try adding grains also. So what I do is when I make bone broth, I boil my rice or whatever I'm adding in the bone broth itself, so that my dog is also getting the nutrition from grains. The best grain would be brown rice.
Okay.
So try boiling vegetables maybe in, bone broth, or try adding that flavor somehow.
Okay. Can homemade yogurt be given to a dog throughout the year, or like in humans, should be stopped in winters?
No, you can give it in winters as well. That's not a problem.
Okay. Is a diet of chicken, eggs, and paneer okay for protein requirement, or mutton and fish are also necessary?
See, every kind of protein, every kind of meat has a function. When we give red meat, we are making sure the dog is not getting deficient of there's no zinc deficiency or there's no copper deficiency. Minerals mostly come from the red meat and the organs. Okay, so organs are also important. The white meat is also important for the lean protein that's going inside your dog. So there are basically 12 essential amino acids that should be going inside your dog, and these 12 essential amino acids, that your dog cannot make these amino acids, so he needs to get them. They do not come from paneer, they do not come from eggs, they come from meats also. So you need to add meat to your dog, white meat, red meat, both are essential. Chicken, eggs, don't give white. White has avidin in it, which is a protein that binds the biotin, and biotin is very very important for your dog's skin, coat, and health. So try giving egg yolk. Egg yolk is the thing to go for. Paneer should be given in moderation, not a lot. Fish, a little amount of fish, not too much, because fish is very very rich in phosphorus. So just make sure you're giving it in moderation, not too much of it, but your dog does require daily dosage of fish, red meat, and white meat.
So a balance is important of
Balance
everything.
is important. See, whenever we are giving food to a dog, we should give a, like I've been repeating, functional protein, functional carbs, and functional vegetables. Like functional, whatever you're giving has to have functional in it. What is functional? Functional is A, it should be a protein that is easily absorbed by a dog. B, it should not have any kind of toxins in it, any kinds of hormones, antibiotics in it. C, it should not be a very high on allergen protein. C, it should be rich in the 12 essential amino acids that your dog requires.
Got it. Next question we have is, are oats healthy for dogs?
Yeah, oats have big lichens in them. They're good for dogs. But not just oats. I know a lot of people have been shunning brown rice. Brown rice is really good for dog. It has got something in it called rice bran. Rice bran is a moderately fermentable fiber, and what moderately fermentable fiber means is it's going inside your dog's intestine, and it's getting fermented. When it gets fermented, it's releasing short chain fatty acids. These fatty acids line up your dog's intestine and prevent them from damage and regenerates them, heals them. So it is a moderate. When we use the term moderate, we means they do not release SCFAs that are more than required or that are less than required. It releases just the right amount. So brown rice is the thing to go for. Oats also definitely you can give, but make sure that whenever you're adding a new grain or new protein, just check your dog's poop to make sure that your dog has a healthy stool and there is no digestive upset.
Okay, makes sense. Can you please explain why
One
even the
moment.
best brands of kibble are not considered healthy?
Still working.
Okay, so kibble is
Still
not.
on it.
Oh my god, just a second, my Siri is
I didn't
acting
get
up.
that. Could you try again?
Just give me a second.
Yeah,
Which one?
I'm so sorry.
it's okay.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
what were you asking?
Can you please explain why even the
Hmm.
best brands of kibble are not considered healthy?
So kibble is, no matter how good a kibble is, kibble is very rich in omega 3 EPA. Sorry, omega 3. Kibble is kibble has only 6 to 7% of the water that your dogs require. So when dry kibble is going inside your dog's stomach, it's soaking up all the stomach fluids and enzymes. As a result, there is no fluid left to flush the waste out of the kidney. So in the long run, this is why renal issues, we have a lot of cases of renal issues in India, because your dog is, the kidney is not getting enough water because the kibble that you're feeding is soaking it up. B, even if it says it does not have preservatives, it's still going to have antioxidants. Now these antioxidants are actually permitted antioxidants. That means these are not really good for your dog, they're just permitted. These are not really great for your dog. Okay. Second thing, when you're, so these dog foods also lead to a lot of other issues like electrolyte imbalances.
Yeah.
Kidney में तो पानी नहीं जा रहा, but also leads to dehydration, which can again cause electrolyte imbalances as well. So why give something that is so highly processed and packaged to your dog when you yourself won't eat it? If I start giving you a packaged food telling you, oh my god, you know, you eat this throughout your life, don't eat anything else, this is the healthiest thing ever, would you believe that? No. So why would you believe that for your dog?
Agree, totally agree. And Seema, that was a very good question. Thank you so much for asking that. And because of you, we could cover it in this session. Okay, so this is again a very, very interesting thing. How to define a healthy gut poop.
It should be it can be any shade of brown, light to dark. It should not
Mm-hmm.
have cracks in it. It should be a smooth long poop. It shouldn't be very hard, because very hard means constipation. It shouldn't be very loose. Very loose means diarrhea. So it should be a, it should be a consistency where you pick it up and there's no mark left on the floor. It should
Okay,
be smooth, it should be long, it should be good solid poop, and
yep,
color should range from light to dark brown. Anything between
okay,
that is fine.
okay. Seema is has a follow up to her previous question that what if we soak the kibble in water first?
You can definitely do that. You soak the kibble in water for a long time, that's fine, but still the probiotics, sorry, antioxidants or the preservatives they have are still in there. It's still very highly processed. There's a lot of, okay, so I'll tell you one thing. When you look at a kibble pack, when you see zinc
Hmm.
written there, what do you see? Is it just zinc? When you see copper, when you see iron, what is written there? A lot of kibbles, and I'm talking about good kibbles, have zinc sulfate, iron sulfate, copper sulfate. This is something your dog cannot absorb. Your dog can only absorb chelated zinc. So always read the package really well, that whatever synthetic supplementations are added there, are those even digestible, or are, can your dogs even absorb those before you giving them? I do not recommend kibble until unless it's really your lifestyle really doesn't allow anything. In that case, do not go for a grain free kibble. Look at whatever the supplements are on the back. Try giving him a lot of water throughout the day. Try soaking it. I think uh, um, there's a new fad where people are giving grain free kibbles, and those can cause a lot of issues in your dogs. So just see what you're getting. Just do your research work. See you have chelated minerals. See you have proper good functional protein, functional carbs in them. I as a person would not recommend them, but then that's your choice. Today you can, even if you're non-vegetarian, you can get a lot of UHT packaged food, or people making fresh food and delivering it to your doorstep. I think DocSpot makes a very good. I
Yeah,
think Minty, you've tried it, right? DocSpot
yeah,
makes
yeah.
a very
Right.
good
Yeah,
UHT packaged. If I don't know if I'm saying it correct. If it's UHT packaged, but it's fresh, and it's better than any kibble that you would find in the market. It's something
of
you
course.
just open and you just put it to your dog's bowl. That's it. You
And
sorted.
you can see what you're feeding. I mean,
Yes, you can
that's
see
very
everything there is visible. Every ingredient is visible.
yeah. And coming back to what a point that Rana commented, that kibble is not a transparent food. So when you're feeding fresh, you know what you're giving to your dog, which is very important.
Very important.
Yeah. Okay. Coming to the next question, I feed. This is from Jolly. I feed my 4 years GST and Indie homemade rice, chicken, fish, egg, curd twice a day. They get kibbles as snack. They drink water whenever they feel like. Do I need to change their diet?
Yes, definitely. You've not added red meat, you've not added organs, you've not written what vegetables you're using. If you're giving home cooked food, has to be properly balanced. Just reach out to any nutritionist, any certified one, and get a plan pulled out for your baby. You don't know what your dog's MER is. Your whatever you're feeding has to meet your dog's MER, has to also, be uh, customized as per your dog's activity level. So just reach out to someone, get a proper plan pulled out, and then start feeding your dog home cooked.
Yep. Okay. Rana is saying here's read that kibbles have clay in it too.
Okay, now I don't want to be taking names, but I've seen worms in kibble, let alone
Yeah.
clay. Rana, I
Yeah.
just it's
Even
just
even in those tins, in those canned
in
foods
those. Oh
also.
my god, three of my clients, and then I was told that it's, I don't know, quinoa, but in the description back in the ingredient it was mentioned quinoa extract. So I was like, how does quinoa extract germinate? Like, how does that scientifically happen? So you never know what's in the kibble. It's always best to feed something that you can see what it contains. And yes, clay, I've read that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so in the last 1 hour, we talked about what different issues are, what are the causes. So let's talk about prevention. So how do you think we can prevent digestive issues?
We can prevent by feeding right, by feeding natural, by avoiding different, by feeding functional proteins, definitely by feeding proteins or meats that are not raw, and that have a quality control. Try feeding different varieties to your dog, try feeding novel proteins to your dogs. Get the regular vet checks. Don't overdo with probiotics, prebiotics. Don't overdo with liver support. Just if you're feeding right, your dog doesn't need all that. Just keep a check on your dog. If there's a temperament change, if there's a behavior change, if your dog is not pooping right, if your dog is, you see lethargy, or your dog has gastric issue, passing too much gas, has dental issue, because dental issue, like I said, is often uh, uh,
Linked. Yeah.
linked, not linked. Basically, people feel that the dog is crying after eating, and it's because maybe the dog has cavity or some dental issue. That is why it's crying right after eating, or may not want to eat because of that. And that people assume as gastric issues. So just get it checked by your vet. Whenever you're going for a vet check, always check for any dental issues.
Got it. Seema again has a very interesting point which talks about frequency of meals. She's asking how many times should an adult dog be fed? Is 3 times too much? My dog
No,
starts
3 times
vomiting
is
bile.
fine.
Yeah,
Three
her
times
dog.
is fine. Your dogs are vomiting bile probably because you're not feeding them meat. Try feeding them right. Your dogs won't do that. 3 to 4 meals is what I feed my adult dogs as well. I like feeding small amounts of food in regular intervals so that they get constant nutrition.
So
Minty, I think the session is almost about to get over. I think we should
yes,
say our goodbyes. And
um, we are left with one thing, which is simple treatments for digestive issues. Maybe we can just talk a little about that, and then we can end the
okay,
session.
again, treatment is based on what you found out. Like I said, with EPI, you just need to add topical enzymes. If it's a gastric issue, colic issue, try adding things like mint leaves, or go get a prescription from your vet for the same. If it's something that's related to, I think, maybe a dental issue, you should just check with your vet. So this is something you get the proper blood works done, the blood works that I mentioned before, and get a diagnosis from your vet, see what he says, follow his line of treatment, and get a meal customized as per whatever his health issue is. If he's allergic to something, get a hypoallergenic diet customized by your nutritionist. If it's a irritable bowel syndrome, get a diet customized for him accordingly. If it's EPI, you need a low grain diet. You do not add too much of grains and vegetables in EPI, so get a diet customized accordingly. If it's something dental, you need to maybe give him a softer diet, something that's easy to eat until unless the dental issue is treated.
Okay, okay, makes sense. All right. Is anything else that you would like to cover on frequency? I think this is a very interesting thing to talk about. How many times to feed? I've seen many
I
people
think
feeding
three
only
to
once
four
a
times
day.
a day. 3 to 4 times a day is required, at least a minimum of 3 times
Hmm.
a day, because when your dog stays hungry for a longer time, he's more prone to gastric issues. And constant nutrition is very, very, very important.
Yeah.
So that your dog keeps getting that energy, so that dog keeps getting the gush of nutrients he needs throughout the day.
Also, Karshika, is it different for adult dogs and puppies?
Adult dogs ke liye I'm talking, like, and you
And
can
so
avoid
how is it
bloating
different
by,
for
yeah, you
puppies?
can avoid bloating by smaller meals.
Oh, okay, okay. And how about puppies? How about pups?
Pups, you start with 5 meals, you can go up to 4 meals, and then reduce to 3 meals.
Okay, okay, great. I think we covered all the questions. I think we covered all the topics. I would like to thank everybody for joining in and asking questions. Oh, one second. I think we have one more from Jolly, which is again a very interesting one. Is grain-free diet really good? Thank you so
Nope.
much for asking that. Would you like to talk a little about grains, Karshaka?
It can cause, see, a very high protein diet, a high protein low fat diet. Even AFCO has, I think, in the 2009 paper mentioned that, don't do that. Like, this is not something we recommend.
Hmm.
I don't think it's important, to give grain free diet. I don't see the reason behind it. Your dog can end up with severe kidney and heart issues when you give a grain free diet. It's always better to add a little amount of grain to your dog's food, because functional carbs are also something your dog requires.
Got it. We talked about frequency of meals. What about frequency of poops?
Because the more toxins your dog has in the poop, the more waste there is in the food, the more the dog will poop. The better the diet is, the lesser the poop would be. If your dog is pooping 4 times, that means half of the things that he's eating, he's just removing. He's not
Yeah.
absorbing.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for asking such wonderful questions. I think we had a great session and we covered some really, really important things. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Akarshika, for talking to us, helping us with all the interesting points that you had to share. And I wish you all a very good evening and a very happy Sunday.
Good evening, you all. Bye bye.
Bye.